What if I told you that one of the oldest stories ever told, older than the pyramids, older than Homer's Odyssey, was lost for millennia, buried beneath the sands of time? The Epic of Gilgamesh, a tale of kings, gods, and monsters, was nearly forgotten until a handful of broken clay tablets whispered its secrets back to life. This is where our journey begins, in the cradle of civilization, ancient Mesopotamia, over 4,000 years ago. Imagine the year 2100 BCE. The Sumerian city of Uruk thrived along the Euphrates River, its ziggurats scraping the sky. Here, legends of a mighty king named Gilgamesh first took shape, not as a single epic, but as scattered poems sung in temples and courts. These early stories were raw, vivid, and full of divine intrigue, painting Gilgamesh as both hero and tyrant. Over the centuries, the Akkadians inherited these traditions and shaped them into a unified narrative. Around 1800 BCE, the Old Babylonian version titled Shooter Elishari, surpassing all other kings, appeared, though only fragments remain. In the 7th century BCE, King Ashurbanipal of Assyria, an avid collector of knowledge, preserved copies of the epic in his library at Nineveh. When the city fell in 612 BCE and the library burned, the tablets were inadvertently hardened by fire, ensuring their survival. In the mid-19th century, British archaeologists uncovered these tablets in Nineveh's ruins. Among them, George Smith, a self-taught scholar, identified a flood narrative that bore striking resemblance to the story of Noah. His public translation in 1872 generated widespread academic interest, yet the tablets were incomplete. Over decades, scholars including Paul Haupt, R. Campbell Thompson, and Samuel Noah Kramer worked to reconstruct the narrative, drawing also on Sumerian source texts. Each recovered fragment offered new insights into Gilgamesh's journey and the epic's broader themes. Gilgamesh has since come to represent more than a king. He is often seen as literature's first complex hero. His story introduced foundational motifs: the quest, the divine struggle, the transformative bond between two men. At the center is a ruler who, despite divine lineage, instills fear in his people through unchecked power. Gilgamesh of Uruk isn't just a ruler, he's a tyrant. By day, he exhausts young men with brutal contests. By night, he invades wedding chambers to claim brides before their grooms. The city's cries reach the heavens, and the gods decide to craft their own weapon against him. To confront this imbalance, the gods create Enkidu, a wild man formed from clay. He lives among animals, untamed and free. Shamhat, a temple priestess, is sent to seduce and civilize him. Through her, Enkidu becomes self-aware but loses his connection to the wild. Alone and changed, he hears of Gilgamesh. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh dreams of a massive star crashing to Earth. His mother, the goddess Ninsun, interprets this as a sign of a powerful rival who will become his closest companion. Gilgamesh dismisses the prophecy, unaware of what lies ahead. Enkidu is introduced to shepherds and taught how to live among people, eating bread, drinking beer, and defending livestock. As he learns of Gilgamesh's oppression, his anger builds. He decides to confront the king. The shepherds warn him of Gilgamesh's unmatched strength, but Enkidu remains resolved. Their confrontation takes place at a wedding. As Gilgamesh approaches the bridal chamber, Enkidu blocks his way. A fierce fight follows. Gilgamesh, for the first time, is matched in strength, but instead of animosity, the battle ends in mutual respect. The tyrant greets his challenger as a brother. Enkidu becomes a counterbalance. Where Gilgamesh acts, he questions. Together, they form a bond that merges civilization with instinct, power with restraint. Their unity soon leads them toward a new and dangerous mission. The gods observe this alliance with concern. They had intended Enkidu to check Gilgamesh's power. Instead, they have created a pair who defy divine expectations. While a reckoning awaits, for now, the two enjoy their newfound friendship. Uruk sees a transformation in its ruler, but the next chapter will test both men severely. They plan to journey to the cedar forest, a sacred realm guarded by Humbaba. Gilgamesh seeks glory and immortality through fame. Enkidu, once part of the natural world, senses danger. Despite pleas from Uruk's elders and his own mother, Gilgamesh refuses to turn back. He entrusts the city to the council and sets out, with Enkidu beside him. During the journey, Gilgamesh is plagued by troubling dreams of mountains falling and birds of fire. Enkidu reassures him, interpreting them as signs of victory. But near the forest, the air shifts. Humbaba appears, furious at Enkidu's betrayal. His power radiates in waves. Gilgamesh feels fear. The battle begins. Humbaba unleashes chaos. Gilgamesh's weapons falter. Enkidu, wounded, urges him to fight. At the brink of defeat, the sun god Shamash sends winds to restrain the guardian. Gilgamesh raises his blade, but hesitates as Humbaba pleads for mercy. Enkidu warns against showing compassion. Humbaba, he says, will only deceive and destroy. Gilgamesh strikes. The forest groans in response. They decapitate Humbaba and cut down the largest cedar to craft a door for Enlil's temple, a gesture as much about conquest as piety. But Humbaba was placed there by the gods. This act is not simply heroic, it is transgression. The gods take note. The heroes return to Uruk in triumph. Gilgamesh celebrates. Enkidu, however, is uneasy. That night, he dreams of a bleak underworld where the dead dwell in silence. The implications are clear. Their victory has drawn divine scrutiny. Their journey is far from over. Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, watches Gilgamesh from afar. Impressed, she proposes marriage. Gilgamesh refuses and recounts the fates of her past lovers, each cursed. Enraged, Ishtar demands her father Anu release the bull of heaven. Though he hesitates, warning of drought and famine, he grants her request. The bull of heaven brings devastation. It cracks the earth, drains rivers, and kills scores. Gilgamesh and Enkidu confront the beast unaided. Enkidu seizes its horns while Gilgamesh delivers the fatal blow. In defiance, Enkidu throws part of the carcass at Ishtar. That night, he dreams of divine judgment. For slaying Humbaba and the bull, one of them must die. He falls ill, cursed and feverish. In anger, he condemns those who led him from the wild, but eventually makes peace, blessing Shamhat with his final breath. Gilgamesh kneels in the dust of Uruk, his robes torn, his hands on his face. The king who once defied gods now grieves beside Enkidu's lifeless body. For 6 days and nights, he refuses burial, clinging to the corpse until decay makes denial impossible. In mourning, he orders a golden statue, fills the grave with offerings, and diverts the Euphrates to bury his friend beneath it. At the funeral feast, he cries to the heavens, asking why the gods gave him a brother only to take him away. No answer comes. Stripped of purpose, he leaves the city, abandoning his crown, and wanders the wilderness in lion skins, unwashed and broken. The bull of heaven rots in the sun. Ishtar's temple is quiet. The cedar door stands as a silent monument to defiance. The gods have delivered their judgment, but Gilgamesh is not finished. What began as grief now becomes a deeper reckoning. He prepares to cross into lands unknown, searching not for vengeance or glory, but for something no human has ever returned with. This is no longer the hero of earlier tales. The conqueror of beasts now fears the rustle of reeds, haunted by visions of Enkidu and the certainty of death. His journey leads through deserts and wilderness, where he kills lions only to clothe himself in their skins. At Mount Mashu, twin scorpion guardians challenge him. No mortal, they say, may pass. Gilgamesh does not yield. He is 2/3 divine, and he will not turn back. The gates open. He walks through darkness for 12 leagues, the path soaked in ancient damp. He emerges into a garden of luminous trees, dazzling but foreign. There, the tavern keeper Sigeri sees a man barely human. She advises him to enjoy life's fleeting pleasures, as even the gods cannot escape death. Gilgamesh refuses comfort. She directs him to Ur-Shanabi, ferryman of the dead. In frustration, Gilgamesh destroys the sacred tools needed to cross the waters, then atones by cutting new punting poles. each one a silent vow. As the boat drifts onward, Gilgamesh prepares to plead. Utnapishtim, ageless but ordinary, listens. Gilgamesh asks how death can be conquered. The reply is a test: remain awake for 6 days and 7 nights. But Gilgamesh, exhausted, falls into sleep almost instantly. Utnapishtim's wife bakes a loaf each day as proof. When he wakes, he denies having slept until the moldy bread shows otherwise. The lesson is blunt: mortality sets its terms. Gilgamesh cannot escape what defines him. Still seeking answers, Gilgamesh demands to know how Utnapishtim achieved immortality. In response, Utnapishtim tells of the flood, a story older than cities. The gods, angered by human noise, chose to erase mankind. Only the god Enki intervened, warning Utnapishtim in secret to build an ark. He gathered his family, wealth, and animals, sealing them inside. When the storm came, it shook even the heavens. The gods, terrified by their own destruction, watched in silence. For 6 days and nights, the flood raged. When the waters receded, Utnapishtim released birds: a dove, a swallow, and finally a raven. The raven did not return. Atop Mount Nimush, he offered a sacrifice. The gods descended in hunger. Enlil, angered to find survivors, was rebuked by Enki. In the end, Enlil granted Utnapishtim and his wife eternal life, not as a reward but as a concession. Immortality, it turns out, was a byproduct of divine remorse. Out of pity, Utnapishtim reveals a hidden plant that restores youth. Gilgamesh retrieves it from the ocean floor. But while he bathes, a serpent steals it and disappears, shedding its skin. The symbol of renewal is gone. Gilgamesh, empty-handed, begins the return journey. Along the way, he begins to understand. The gods offer no rewards, only reminders. The pursuit of eternal life has led him to the edge of understanding and back. Mortality is not a curse. It is what gives life weight. As the Pharaoh Shinabi washes the grime from Gilgamesh's body and drapes him in clean robes, something shifts. The king who left Uruk as a wild beast returns, quieter, wiser. The epic's famous closing lines ring hollow to modern ears: behold the walls of Uruk, but their message is profound. Gilgamesh's legacy isn't in eternal life, but in what he built. The city, his people, the stories etched in clay. This is the oldest human epiphany, that mortality defines heroism. Achilles would later choose glory over long life. Beowulf would face his dragon knowing the cost. But Gilgamesh was the first to wrestle with the dilemma and lose. His grief for Enkidu wasn't just love, it was terror at his own fragility. Yet in accepting that fragility, he becomes fully human. The Epic of Gilgamesh stands out for its honesty. There's no divine rescue, just the realization that memory is the only immortality. The underworld is a silent, dusty place, not a paradise. Yet the story avoids nihilism. Gilgamesh returns from his quest wiser, understanding that mortality gives life meaning. The epic leaves us with a question: if you knew your legacy would fade, would you still strive? His answer is a timeless yes. Gilgamesh lived the hero's journey millennia before Campbell defined it. His tale features every element: adventure, divine aid, trials, descent, return, but ends in failure, not reward. That failure is what makes him the first truly human hero. Like Odysseus, he travels in search of wisdom. Like Hercules, he faces divine beasts. But when Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh seeks not vengeance but meaning. Greek myths echo these episodes closely, suggesting Mesopotamian influence through Anatolia. What sets Gilgamesh apart is that he returns empty-handed. Where others are rewarded, he accepts that death cannot be conquered. Sijiri's advice, to eat, drink, and find joy, isn't a distraction, but the heart of the epic. His transformation from arrogant king to seeker shows rare psychological depth. His rejection of Ishtar is rooted in ethics. Even his failure to stay awake in Utnapishtim's test is telling. It's not betrayal, but human limitation. Later legends borrowed Gilgamesh's template but sanitized it. Alexander the Great sought eternal life but found romanticized myths. Roman emperors adopted Hercules, not Gilgamesh. Even Tolkien's Aragorn and Marvel's Tony Stark follow a softened version of his arc: pride, exile, grief, return. But Gilgamesh's journey remains darker, more honest, and more enduring. His story also shaped biblical tradition. Utnapishtim's flood matches Noah's in structure and detail, divine wrath, ark sealed with pitch, birds searching for land. These aren't coincidences but cultural echoes preserved across time. The Garden of Eden, too, finds an earlier version in Gilgamesh. Enkidu is a wild man tamed by a woman, made to eat, drink, and become self-aware. Yet unlike Adam, he blesses his civilizer. The snake that steals the plant of youth and Sigiri's carp diem advice mirror the serpent in Eden and the voice of Ecclesiastes, both likely adapted from Mesopotamian sources. Deeper structural links appear throughout. Eve's creation from a rib recalls the goddess Ninti, formed to heal Enki. Jacob wrestling the angel parallels Gilgamesh and Enkidu's fight. Nebuchadnezzar's madness echoes Enkidu's fall from nature. These reinterpretations show how mythologies evolve. Hebrew storytellers reshaped Gilgamesh's themes through a monotheistic lens, turning existential uncertainty into moral doctrine. Gilgamesh's legacy thrives in modern culture. In Princess Mononoke, the cedar forest becomes a sacred realm defended by wild gods. The Hulk channels Enkidu's primal rage. Tony Stark mirrors Gilgamesh's arc. Across genres, from graphic novels to computer games, artists revisit his journey because it explores fears that remain constant: mortality, grief, the limits of power. Today, scholars call the epic a literary origin point. Its structure shaped storytelling across civilizations. Even its gaps inspire new works, like Margaret Atwood's poetry on Enkidu's afterlife. Most remarkably, archaeology confirms that Gilgamesh likely ruled Uruk around 2800 BCE. His story blends myth and memory, showing that even the oldest rulers grappled with mortality. 4,000 years later, he still whispers the same truth. Stories endure not because they promise victory, but because they reveal what it means to be human.